card number 113 from the 1953 Bowman Color set. It's Carl Drews of those Philadelphia Phillies, looking rather intimidating here as he gets the baseball ready for a game in the Polo Grounds. And I love that he's got his mitt kind of wrapped around his wrist there. And as intimidating as he looks, I'm not sure that he had such a great year pitching for the Phillies. He's been in baseball since 1939. Okay, I stand corrected. He had his best major league season last year with the Phillies, which would have been 52. Anyway, Carl Drews, cool looking photograph. Great baseball card. And if it's card number 113, it must be session number 113 of Card Room Live, which is not a show. It is, however, a hangout for fellow vintage collectors. Sometimes we have guests, as we do tonight. You also might be a guest. You may not know it, but you might be a guest too before the night is over. But whether we have guests or not, we always find time to waste time looking at and talking about old vintage cardboard. And through it all, we try to make it time well wasted. Welcome to my fellow YouTubers. Welcome to the commenters. Welcome to the lurkers, to the folks from Instagram, to the folks from X. If you're here with us live, welcome to you. But if you're listening to this later, whether you are going to or coming home from work, or maybe you're returning from a Christmas vacation, perhaps you're sorting cards, looking at eBay, rolling out meatballs, walking the dog, sitting on the john, wondering if Eddie Wakis will come up, wondering what other Mike Foolery will get into, whatever you might be doing, I hope you get something out of it. If you have ideas for future sessions or you just want to connect, you can email me at bowman53channel@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram, bowman53_Alex. On X, 1953 Bowman Color, and of course, all that information can be found in the description below. Tonight's session of Card Room Live is brought to you by Polar Bear Chewing and Smoking Tobacco. Polar Bear is now, always has been, and always will be the best scrap tobacco. Ask for Polar Bear. It's the best. And just a public service announcement, Card Room Live does not endorse smoking or chewing tobacco. However, we do endorse the little cardboard that used to come in those products. So having said that, Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays to everybody. All-American 82nd, that's your second time in a row, I think, being the first commenter. You're just really trying to push Mike's buttons. There's a good reason, though, that happened tonight. Orlando's here. Peter B. is here. David Busel is here. Mr. Baseball Time Traveler is here. Season's greetings from Hammer 44. Rick Acosta is here. Ray from Philly is here. Hugo Signs of the Pastime. Peacemaker Cards. Mike Polina. Good to see you, Mike. Larry is here. Low Grade, No Grade Vintage. The Detroit Collector. Mr. Lou Rock TV. Pastor Craig. Mark Hoyle. What a fantastic group of folks. A wrench holder. Mr. Don from Don's Field of Dreams. Pre-War Dreams, Warren D. in the CLE, Max Jackson, Chris from Missouri, and Mr. Doug Joe Wood Collector, Hodges 1455, a great group of folks, including Reese and D Card Ranger. Chris from Missouri is here as well. So a great group in the chat. I'm going to ask for you guys' help in the chat. Maybe you want to join the live stream. Maybe you just want to share some comments or some questions. What we're going to be talking about tonight is YouTube. We talk about this every now and then, having a YouTube channel, making videos, running a YouTube channel, coming up with content, and, keeping that rolling, which is tough to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I reached out into the community and asked a few folks to jump in. We got a few folks in here already. You might also want to jump in, and I will share the link here in a second, but we're going to be talking about running and running a YouTube channel, the life of a YouTuber in this baseball card community. So I'm going to start bringing some of these folks in. One of the reasons that Mike wasn't here to open the doors because he's right here. What's up, Mike?
Someone stole my keys.
It happens, especially around the holidays. Mike, thanks for joining. We've got the Drew Vintage Legacy. What's up, Drew?
How are we doing, guys?
Doing great. And Mr. Sammy Thunder. What's up, Sammy?
Howdy.
Great to see you guys. So, all right. This is going to be kind of off the cuff. I reached out to these guys and said, I want to talk a little bit about running a YouTube channel. And so I don't have any questions prepared. I don't know if you guys have had any time to really think about it in the short amount of time I gave you to think about it. But we'll just kind of play it by ear. If you guys have any questions in the chat, whether they're individual questions or questions about, YouTube card community stuff in general, would love to hear those. And I will also put the live stream link in the chat if anybody wants to join us. Why don't we start with an easy one? And Mike, let's start with you. When or how long have you had a channel?
It'll be 2 years, January 1st.
2 years. Okay. And Drew, how about you?
I think it's April will be 3 years.
3 years. Okay. And Sammy?
I think March will make it 4, if I'm not mistaken.
4. Okay. And I got to figure mine out here. It's going to be 5 years. So how about that? That was not intentional, but we're all like in sequential order here. Yeah, Ray hasn't been on that long. Yeah, right. The life of a YouTuber is always looking for ideas. Yeah, why don't we talk about that? That's a great way to get us started, Lou. Who wants to jump in? How do you? Because at this point, right, it can be tough. Like the longer that you're making videos, the harder it might be to come up with ideas. At this point in your like life on YouTube, guys, how are you coming up with ideas? And feel free to say maybe you aren't coming up with ideas, because that's also part of the struggle. Anybody got any answers to that one?
I got the idea to go on a lot of live streams.
Yeah, right. That's a great way to handle it.
Well, I'll go first, I guess. For me, right before I started actually making videos, I just got on the computer and started typing like different subjects I wanted to cover, and I just came up with those, looking at my own collection, things that I wanted to complete in the collection or add to in the collection, and then I do a lot of like famous events and things like that. Well, you can't, just off the top of your head, you can't come up with a fraction of what's actually happened in Major League sports, even just baseball. So I've actually come up with ideas just by watching other people's videos, and sometimes it's just a brief mention of something. Like they'll be showing cards and they'll be going, this person played for the Whiz Kid Phillies, and he also, was in World War II. And I go, whoa, I didn't know that. And I do my series on athletes at war, so I'll start researching that. And so, I mean, you get ideas all over the place, really. And the key is to try to like spread it out a little bit and kind of mix it up. I don't think I do that great a job of mixing it up. Sometimes I get kind of stale doing kind of the same series, then I try to slip something else in. But
Right.
that's basically where I come up with my ideas.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of without even realizing it, watching somebody else's video and something jumps out at you and that can spark something.
The key is to write it down when you think about it, because sure enough, 2 days later you'll go, what was that I was thinking about?
Right.
It just goes right out.
Right. Sammy or Drew?
So, really, your channel, you kind of carve your niche and what your channel specializes in. And so for me, it's always card shows. Card shows is what draws the most interest. So, but I mean, obviously there's only so many card shows you can go to, so you have to really expand on your channel a little bit to kind of broaden it. So, the way that you do your Sunday live streams, creates consistency. And so there's always a drive to want to watch them because you're consistent with them. And so it's like, oh, this was great. I can't wait till next week. So I think ideas can be repetitive if done right. And
Right.
so creating a series is a great way to not fall into this sort of writer's block when it comes to generating ideas. So also, I think the key thing is, and I've this is kind of going a little off the topic, but coming up with a routine schedule every single week or trying to stay to that will drive more viewers to your channel that way. So not only are you being creative in that regards, but you're not forcing yourself to have to come up with something off the top of my head. So for me, it's, if I have a card show, is typically a Saturday video, and then Thursday I'll do a live stream with Jason from Everyday Card Collector, and when I'll try to do something every Monday and Wednesday. Monday I've been doing the the start of the week videos where I showcase other people's stuff, and then Wednesday could be kind of a hodgepodge of really anything. So really, at the end of the day, I'm really just focusing on one day to kind of generate that creativity, to have to really think of something off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't know. I think consistency in doing something, creating an episode, a series, is a good way to kind of bring that out.
Right.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of Sammy, I think the first thing he said, you have to carve out your niche, and that's so important if you're doing stuff, because you watch so many people's channels showing so many ideas, so many collections, so many things. Sometimes it's repetitive. Sometimes it's like, I don't have anything to do with that. But you got to find what you personally like, and, I could, I don't know, do something that I'm not really interested in just to do it, but then I would lose interest quickly. So, you find where your comfort, that's that sort of sweet spot of how your delivery is, how you do it. Sammy, he does a great job with card shows. That's how he built his channel. Mike, you did so much with the history and really just in-depth history reviews of things of people we've heard of, but maybe not that part of the story. Alex, you started out with with a simple thing as a Bowman 53 set, and you're still using it. Your little clips open every one of these things every single week. So all of us have a way we do it. I got into YouTube really because I realized that I reached the capacity of my friendship with Jake, because he said, Drew, I don't care about your stories anymore. Go tell them to stop. But seriously, he just said, why don't you just film these things? You're always telling these stories. And I'm like, nobody wants to hear me. And I don't know, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's how I kind of got into it, was just telling a story about whatever it was, an experience, a card, a person, an exchange, a show, or whatever it was, because there's always stories involved with it. So that's where I've kind of landed. And that consistently in putting out videos, it helps me to continue to want to think of another idea. I try to put a video out pretty much every Saturday. I usually don't think about what I'm going to put out until maybe like Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm at work, and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do this week? Sometimes I come up into this room, literally stand in the middle, look around and say, well, what haven't I talked about yet? What's a card that may have an interest to it or something? Sometimes I get a lot of stories backed up. Like right now, I had a few really great ideas, in my opinion at least, come up. And this afternoon I had time. I actually filmed two videos for my next 2 weeks. So I feel like I have a vacation coming because I don't have to think of anything. But the point is that you get into a groove with it, and then you start to get comfortable, and the ideas do start to flow. We all have times where they don't, you get a little block or whatever, and you just don't feel like it. But still, the consistency and being in your groove and knowing your niche, all of those are really important things.
Right. Sammy mentioned this live stream, and it's strange because for a long time I didn't really think of this live stream as part of my channel. I mean, obviously it is a part of my channel, but I always sort of think of it as like it's a community thing. And I basically sometimes I'll think about it like, oh, I should talk to so-and-so and see if they can jump on. But a lot of times, because I'm lazy or just because there's too much stuff going on, I'll just go live at 8 o'clock and whatever happens. But it has become this consistent thing. And for the past year or so, it's really been the only consistent thing that I have to lean on, because my time has been really filled with other stuff. And I just don't have the amount of time that I would like to have to make the other videos that I used to make more frequently. I mean, I remember when I first started, 4 or 5 years ago now, I was making 2 or 3 videos every week pretty consistently, and I had it down to a routine. And whether it was like, a mail day or a one-off sort of history thing or whatever it might be, I was making videos all the time, and it was great, and I was keeping up with it. But I mean, gosh, I can't remember the last time I made a video. I've been working on a video that I've talked about many times for the past several months. I got like a precious afternoon today to work on it a lot. I got a lot of it done. It's almost done. It's been like 3 months now that I've been working on this video, and I just cannot find the time to sit down and like really spend the amount of time I need it to be. And so when it's done, it'll be like this big achievement, but I just don't have the time that I would like. But having said all that, I'm always glad that I have Sunday night. Like Sunday night, I've got that time slot, set aside to do this and to feel connected to the community and to, have conversations and put stuff out there. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts you want to jump in here. Let me see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Yep, I agree. Terry is really great at weaving stories into the cards that he shows, for sure. Don has been consistently not making as many videos. Very consistent, absolutely. Let's see what Terry says. I enjoy seeing all the different ways content creators go about it. Some are good at turning on the channel and going, while others are more structured. Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. Whereas some people will just hit record and they'll do their thing. Other people will have more of a mapped out approach. Let's see. Yeah, let me ask you guys, because there's a couple comments here earlier. Let's see. Eddie says it's so hard to keep up with all the great channels now. What are your guys' feelings? And because we've all been around for a couple of years. Have you noticed? And I'll give you guys some time to think about this. Have you noticed anything different in the time that, say, from when you started to where things are now, just in terms of like how the community feels or how YouTube feels, whether it's you making videos or just how it feels out there in terms of like the stuff that shows up in your subscription feed?
Something I've noticed since I started, maybe just a year or so after, there seemed to be, now maybe it was just me, but there seemed to be a lot more long form videos that people put out. Stuff like this where there's lives, but there's always been kind of the live stuff that you can go back and rewatch. But stuff like these comment or a conversation that, and they may be 30 or 45 minutes or an hour, and these are by great people who I admire and I love their collection and I love their point of view. But it is really hard when you turn on your notifications and you see you've got 3 of those, and you're like, that's 1/8 of my day if I watch all 3 of these things. Like, it's really hard, and that's not including all the little ones and all the other stuff. So it does get difficult to be able to figure out not what to and not to watch, but you kind of almost have to. But that's one thing I've noticed is long form videos have been, at least with me, I've seen them more and more and more. Now, maybe that's because as I go on, I discover more channels, and of course, when you have more channels, there's more likelihood of that or not. Yeah. But to me, I've noticed that there's a lot of 45 minutes or 35 minutes or an hour, and it's not that they're bad content, not people rambling on. It's good stuff. I don't have an hour commute to work. I don't have the opportunity to listen to stuff while I'm at work. So my viewing time is very limited and very sporadic. I might have 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there. Right. So that's something that's been difficult for me, but that's something I have noticed, is just saying there's a lot of long form videos that have been coming out.
I'll agree with that. And as you're making content also, I've tried to be conscious, especially lately, of not going over like 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is kind of long also. People sometimes, well, it depends on what you're doing, but I think attention spans kind of wane probably after about the 6 or 7 minute mark. So, but when you start, if you're really getting into something and you're either telling a story or you're showing something for the video, sometimes it's really easy to get into that 12, 15, 18 minute mark. And it's also not easy to edit it down where it makes any kind of cohesive sense. So you
Right.
kind of have to keep it at that. So it's kind of tough, both from watching and from making.
Right. I feel like I've reached my, I think Lou said it earlier that like YouTube years are like dog years where, you know, even if you've only been around for a couple of years, you're ancient. And I feel like I've reached my curmudgeon years where I just don't care at all if my video is too long for somebody. It's like, if you don't want to watch it, that's fine. You know, like I'll make the video as long as I want it to. I do try to like keep in mind, like, okay, if I'm getting bored or I think I'm going on too much about something, I'll try to cut it down. But if I think the video should be 20 minutes, that's how long it's going to be. And if somebody doesn't want, and honestly, I feel like part of the reason that makes me feel like that's not such a bad idea is I see a lot of great videos out there that have tons of views and people are really excited about it, and they're like an hour and a half, you know, and so it's hard to figure out what the rhyme or reason is. Like the instinct to say shorter is better, I think is a good one. But Mike, I think what you said is correct, which is like if it justifies being longer, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Sammy, any thoughts about like things that you've noticed that have changed, or any you know, I don't know, any trends or anything that's evolved?
Well, I mean, talking about the long form videos and talking about attention spans, I mean, you know, the passion is there to create these long form videos. And, you know, I think a lot of people are mentioning in the chat that it's great for long car rides, great for walks and such. But as we all can agree, a lot of, like, not just the four of us, but a lot of us, you know, we don't have enough time in the day to do this, to be able to watch and listen to all these videos. So, you know, I always think, you know, the best type of video is where you're able to, you know, if you're going to make a long form video, you want to make it so that you can toggle through it and kind of find bits and pieces of it that if you don't have the time,
Right.
and you want to be able to get as much content as you can, you want to support as much as you can, it's not practical to watch only one channel's hour and a half video after work, after coming home at 5 or 6 p.m.,
Right.
knowing you have other stuff you have to do that's not hobby related. So what do you do in that situation? You got to really just kind of go through the video that you want to watch, find the bits and pieces if it's a long form. I mean, it's no disrespect to the channel. It's just time, you know, non-hobby time is important too. So,
Yeah.
you know, we want to take in as much as we can. But, you know, I think that's really the essential thing is if you're going to make a long form video, I think you want to make it so that it's, you know, appealing to those that don't have time and those that do, and you know, they can pick and choose what they want. But what I will say is, you know, the algorithm can swallow channels up and give the lion's shares of views for certain channels. So what I suggest to do is, if you are not seeing a certain channel but you know you're subscribed to it, click on the subscription button on the left when you're on your YouTube page so that you can watch, so you can see all the channels that have listed new videos for that day, because you cannot depend on the algorithm to reestablish a channel for you. You got to do it yourself.
Right. I got to share this really quick. So Larry says I usually fall asleep on long videos, and then Orlando comes right back with, I've put Larry to sleep a few times.
Hope Larry's not driving when he's doing that.
Yes, you have, Orlando, but that's what happens at this age. Great. Love the banter, guys. Do you guys have any questions or thoughts that have sort of percolated while we've been talking about this? And if anybody in the chat has a question, YouTube related or to these individual guys, please drop one in the chat. I mean, I have some more questions, but I just want to stop and see if you guys have anything you want to talk about related to having a channel.
So let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind me bringing this up. this has become a little bit of a hot topic, at least amongst a few. I don't know how many people really care about this, but the anti-VR requests and the gift giving. I've seen Petty mention it a number of times that he's like, enough with the VR videos. So where do we all stand on that? I'm curious.
So for me, when somebody has a contest or just wants to do one, it kind of serves, to me, two purposes. One is selfish and one is selfish and selfless. The selfless is, I don't know, I don't really think I have a huge channel, but I know my channel it's kind of in the mid range. So I know that if I'm doing a video response to somebody, especially with a smaller channel, I know what that felt like when they hit 50 subscribers, 100, 200, or whatever. And that's a big feeling. You're feeling like I'm doing something, you know? So I want to support that. On the flip side, it also goes back to, Lou's got a great point on that, by the way, but I respect Mike, I do, but I thought that was funny. Anyway, but the other side is, you know, sometimes it's easy content, you know, like I don't know what to do a video on. Well, who's doing video responses? I can go ahead and knock out a few of those just to get something on the air. So that's the selfish side of it. For me personally, I've slowed down on offering them, not because I don't want to do them, but I don't know. I guess I have enough stuff coming out. I don't feel like I've achieved anything as far as a number to celebrate, but that doesn't mean I won't do them. I think they're an important part of any channel growing to offer them out. As far as the giveaways, you know, that's kind of fun. You know, I don't ever do a video response hoping that I get that prize. I don't pick and choose, well, what are they giving away? Maybe put my effort in. I wouldn't do that. You know, I'm trying to support people in what they're doing as far as videos. And as far as what I've given away in the past, honestly, it's just stuff. And sometimes I've given stuff away and it's super like was exciting for that person because of whatever. At other times, like, hey, Drew, I appreciate it. But, you know, for me, the most part is it's part of the community. It's sharing people with people. I don't come here for entertainment about myself. I come here for this community to get to know people. And if part of that means doing a video response or for me to offer one or for me to do, you know, support somebody with it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I would say it feels like when I started, you know, what was it, like 4 years ago or whatever it is, it felt like there were a lot of contests and video responses being made. And I'm sure there are a lot now, but at the time it was overwhelming how many contests there were, and they were all kind of piled on top of each other. And sometimes it was hard to keep track of what was going on. But I definitely tried to keep up with it. And I think especially when you're a new channel and you're getting into the community, VR is kind of like the YouTube Hall of Fame, is a great way to figure out what's going on and who the channels are and get to know people. And so for that reason, I tried to keep up with them and I tried to do a lot of VR responses. And I had a couple contests early on my channel. And I don't know, maybe I'm just not paying attention. I don't really feel like I see as many contests anymore. I'm sure there are some going on and I might just be missing them. But I haven't done video responses in a long time. It's not like a intentional thing. But well, shoot, what was I going to say? Honestly, sometimes I feel the problem with video responses is, or here's what I'll say instead of being negative. My favorite contests and my favorite video responses are the ones that come out of left field, where it's like this really unique idea that really gets you excited to participate. If it's sort of like show your favorite card or, you know, who's the best catcher of all time or whatever, it's like a lot of those have been done many, many, many times. One of my favorite ones going way back was from Scotty Tradition. Some of you guys might know Scott. He's still making videos. A number of years ago, he had a contest where I forget what his milestone was, but the idea was share something about yourself, like an interest or a hobby that not everybody knows about. And so some people started talking about like their favorite TV shows or their favorite movies, or like they were in a band or they played the guitar or whatever. It was just cool to sort of see everybody kind of like share different sides of themselves. It was like totally not what you normally see in a video. And so I remember being excited when somebody posted a video response to that, because it was just different from the usual videos. And so I would say, if you're going to make a contest, try to think of something that like stirs the pot, because I think the video responses can get a little rote, and maybe that's what Mike Petty was complaining about.
I'd have to agree with everything you guys have said about that. I've only participated in maybe 3 or 4 VRs in 2 years, and they've been subject matter that as soon as I heard it, I thought I had something to add. You know, I had something, a story with whatever cards I was going to show or whatever. But there's so many that are that they're not bad. It's just I don't really have anything to add to it. You know, so I just don't do it.
Right.
So I don't think it's a bad thing, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah. So Sammy, what are your thoughts on it?
I have no ill will on it. Again, it's just a matter of timing. I think, as some of these other guys have mentioned, it's a great opportunity for some of the smaller channels to kind of put themselves out there more, and to kind of get established by some of the bigger channels, and also to kind of expand and broaden their reach. And again, it's just the concept of it is fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a build up to an event, or like a live stream format, or if it's not a live stream, I mean, whether it's a recorded video or a live stream, it builds up to this one moment where you announce 1, 2, or 3 winners of a card. And it's just fun to, if you're doing a VR for somebody that requested it, the requester, it's always fun to watch as the requester some of the responses that you receive. So I have no issue with it. I think a lot of these guys in the chat have mentioned that it comes in waves, which I think is true. Comes at various times. So I have no issue with it.
Right. This is a good point. Detroit Collector saying that it's a great way for smaller channels to interact with larger channels. Yeah, and similar to the YouTube Hall of Fame, where like everybody's sort of interacting with each other, perhaps more than they ordinarily are during the year. Here's a great quote from Max, and Max knows because Max has been around for a long time. Video responses and giveaways are largely responsible for the early growth to YouTube collecting as a whole. YouTube used to allow you to link your video to the original directly. So yeah, it was a great way to create like word of mouth to get everybody to sort of discover each other. I think the algorithms are better now at throwing new channels our way, and I think there's a lot of folks in our community that will post new videos like, hey, I just found this. I know Orlando does this a lot. Like, here's a new channel, you should check this out, which is great. But we all can't possibly know all the new channels. So contests can definitely help with that. Yeah, absolutely, Mitchell. VRs are a nice way to celebrate milestones with your subscribers and with the community, definitely. Here's a great piece of advice. Stay true to why you started a YouTube channel. None of us are making a living at this. Very true. Yeah, let me ask you, how much, if at all, are you all are each of you paying attention to the response you get for a video that you made? And that can mean a number of things. It could mean just sort of the organic response, whether it's like from friends or comments, but it could also be like more analytical in terms of views or comments, or likes or any of that kind of stuff. And how much does that affect your content creation, if at all?
I'll start with that. I tend to be very analytical in a lot that I do.
Okay.
I can't help but look, but I don't. It doesn't really affect my day If I post a video and it's just tanking for whatever reason, I'm not like, I can't believe this isn't working or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been very surprised at times where a video got a huge amount of response. And I'm like, really? Why this one? Just as much as I'm surprised when some videos I get nothing. And I'm like, well, what's different about this one? I'll give you an example. Now, with me and the way I do videos and collecting and stuff, I don't typically do these type of videos, but I posted one, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. And it was like, the most money I ever spent on a card kind of thing. And I know that's going to get more views because people are really interested in this. If you know me, you know that most of my collection was purchased a long time ago. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, I spent 250 on this, or 325 on a Hank Aaron rookie. People are like, what? I'm like, well, yeah, but that's what they were going for back then. So that was a lot of money for me. So that one, within a day, I was up over 1,000 subs, and I only have, I think, 3 videos over 1,000. So I was shocked at that it was so big because it's way more subscribers than I have. On the other side, I did a video that I loved researching, and the more I got into it, I was really into. I couldn't wait to make the video, and when I posted it, I was like really excited to see, well, what's this going to do? Because there was information that I had discovered I'd never heard of, and I thought it would connect with this type of crowd, and it was like terrible. And it's still, if you look in your, where your current one ranks with your last 10 videos, it's still. That's still number 10 out of the last 10 of like views at this point today or whatever, because I don't know why, because I thought it was a very good video. So I went back and I rewatched it, and I'm like, well, maybe I didn't state this correctly, or maybe I was too confusing or long-winded or short-winded or whatever. And then that's when I start analyzing, what did I do wrong when I think it should have been better, but it just didn't do that well.
Right.
I don't know. There are certain things, though, the algorithm will pick it up. And I've said this before, probably this week. I did a video about a year and a half ago, just a room tour. Lots of us have done room tours.
Sure.
Showing off stuff. And mine was no different or better than anyone else's. And probably this week I'm going to hit 18,000 views on it. And I'm like, why? Like, who's watching this? Like, that's more people that live in my town. And who's 18,000 people that want to see my little goofy card room? But it still is consistently my either number 1 or 2 video every single week for the last year and a half. I don't understand it, but I keep thinking, well, maybe I need to do another room tour video. But
right, when in doubt,
yeah, I use it just to sort of sharpen myself, not to pat myself in the back, but like, well, what could I have done different or whatever? Because I do like to think about the way I present myself for my topic, not just talk, which is how I kind of always live my life otherwise.
Right.
Hey, Drew, of those 18,000 on that particular video, do you know off the top of your head, like how many likes and how many comments you got?
Comments it's in the hundreds. I know that. I still get a comment every once in a while. Obviously from someone outside the community. I don't know about likes. I really don't pay attention to likes.
I mean, they're a lot less. I mean, a lot less than the views, right?
Oh yeah.
Right. It takes effort to like it, right? You got to do things. You can't just click on the video.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going to get at is like, because I do look also, and when I first began, it was very confusing to me how the views and the likes and the comments could be so skewed. I mean, there'd be like a good amount of views and okay amount of comments, and I always like to answer all the comments.
Yeah.
And then the likes would be like way down, or even just the likes to the comments. The comments would all be positive. Let's say there was 40 comments, but there'd be 18 likes. So they weren't meshing it all. So yeah, I mean, so after I realized that, and I've looked at other people's channels too. I mean, some of the big guys that have thousands of subscribers, and their views and likes on particular videos are the same way. They're just it's a bigger, the percentage is the same. It's just larger numbers is all we're talking about.
Right.
So it's just something that's built in within YouTube and people in general, I guess. So that kind of stuff doesn't bother me anymore. It's just I find it interesting, and also to Drew saying that about some videos do better than others. It is true, but funny thing is like I kind of like lose track of some of my earlier videos that have just done nothing. And you go back and you go, oh, it had like 4 likes before. Now it's got 10. So they kind of grow over time. People kind of go back if they like your channel. Sometimes they don't, and that's another problem. They find you maybe on your 75th, 80th,
Right.
video, and they don't go back, or they'll go back and they'll just cherry pick. Oh, I like that. So I like that team he's talking about, or I like this, and they won't go back and check the other stuff. Well, plus there's so many channels that you can't really possibly do that either. I mean, you can't keep up with the current stuff, let alone go back.
Right. And it's weird because some of that stuff is not ancient history, right? Like it's still relevant to you as a collector, but because it was posted 2 weeks ago, it's like, oh, that's ancient history. Like YouTube is all like the here and now. There is some evergreen stuff, but a lot of stuff feels like it's from the past. Sammy, anything you want to add?
I'm just seeing what some of the people in the chat are mentioning. Let me go back and find the one I was particular about. I think it was Don's Field of Dreams left a comment that says, my Negro League videos take the most time and research, but get the least views, but I get to educate myself. I thought that was kind of pretty. I thought that was a great assessment. When he mentioned that, it made me think of the video I did on the history of Stahlmeyers, of the Stahlmeyer cards.
Yeah. And
I kind of referenced the website because they have a great website that talks about the history of the company, but then it talks, and once it gets to the card portion of the history, it's really interesting how they kind of break it down. But it's interesting because I'm sure Don had the same experience of going through and researching some of these videos that he worked on, and I think Dan's Vintage Baseball PC also kind of added to that a little earlier. It says people like to see cards and they don't like to learn. It's just an interesting take. I wonder how much of the historical aspect of educating about cards doesn't have as much interest as visually seeing it. So I don't know if there is a disconnect there, but I mean, I'm noticing that on some of the videos where I create more educational content, it just doesn't really connect. As strongly.
All these things are niches within the community. Obviously, the biggest niche is show cards. I mean, that's just a given. But like I got together with 3 or 4 other guys, YouTube creators that do more story-based and history-based of the stuff, and they all said basically the same thing. Sometimes it's just hard if people aren't going to watch some of them, or they're going to. If you look at the analytics and you have a 10-minute video and you're showing some stuff, but you're also telling more history of it, and you're looking like people are watching like 3 minutes of it. So you don't, from a content creator, you don't know what they're watching or what they're interested in. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what are you interested in making, and people can pick and choose what they want to watch.
It's a shame, though. I feel like these videos about learning about certain sets, especially if you're interested in that said set, I think it's a great opportunity, especially if you're a collector that's that was interested in it and looking to learn more about it. You have like if Alex, I'm sure Alex, you've done videos on on the Bowman 53 set and have given a lot of input on it. And I think you're a wealth of knowledge in that regards. I know Rick, Rocket Rick also does the Bowman stuff too. So I think, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of content out there that is getting overlooked. And I'm not saying you two in particular, I'm just saying in general. And I feel like it's a real shame that happens.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of comments similar to that here. Dan saying his card show and SGC reveal videos get double the videos of anything that has to do with like learning about content or cards or players. Here's a good comment. I've had to disassociate views with value. There are more important stories that need to be told. Screw the analytics. One of the things that, and also there's this comment. One of the things that I often hear from fellow YouTubers, and I say this too, so I'm not trying to separate myself, is, I'm going to make my video, and if people watch it, great. And if they don't watch it, that's okay too. I say that to kind of keep my spirits up, but I'll be honest, if I put a lot of effort into a video, and I mean like a lot of effort into it, and it doesn't really resonate, that sucks. Like it's not a good feeling, So, and after a while, it's like, well, gosh, how many more times am I going to make a video that doesn't resonate, right? And I'll go even further, and I'll say that there's probably some of my favorite YouTubers of all time don't make videos anymore. And I'm going to guess that one of the, a lot of people will stop making videos just because life happens and they move on and things evolve, and maybe they're not interested in collecting. But I do think one of the reasons is because for whatever reason, their views were not up, and it's a little bit of a bummer after a while. And so I think it's a healthy thing to say, like, well, what's going on, right? And I think, Mike, you said this, and a few other people have said this too, and Sammy, if you're getting something out of it, and if you're having an experience that's enhancing your collecting and your knowledge and your appreciation for the hobby, then there is some value in it. And if people don't find it right away, perhaps they will over time. Like Mike, you're saying, people have found videos from the past that maybe they didn't see the first time, but they're going back and they're discovering it later. And with that in mind, I've really tried to change my videos. Like I used to do mail days, and I think mail days are great, and I have no problem with mail days. But now if I make a video that's not a live stream, I try to make it a video that like is as relevant, 2 years from now as it is the day that I made it, so that it's not about like a log of something that I got. It's more about a broader picture, if that makes sense. Because I know that maybe they're not going to see it the day I made it, but hopefully they'll find it someday. And that's sort of the hope. Any thoughts, guys? Let's see what's going on here in the chat. See, Larry says, strictly a viewer, learn something every day interesting from all of you. Dan, your channel is extremely informative. Reese says the history and card and set deep dives are my favorite. YouTube is definitely a to each their own platform in our hobby. Yeah, absolutely. There's room for all different types of videos.
I think, I may be off on this, but kind of something both Sammy and Alex said. You put in a huge amount of work in research, and when you research, the video that I made that I found interesting was on this painting that's behind me, which I'll grab it.
Yeah,
Norman Rockwell.
The Norman Rockwell painting, and we all know this painting or we've seen it before. Well, I started doing research on it because I thought, why not? I mean, it's baseball related. We all know it. And there was this huge story to it about how he created it, when he created it, who he used, all this stuff. And then there was this find of the original study that he did that someone didn't know was original until about 7 years ago.
Wow.
And it was just this huge thing. And I got more and more interested, more and more excited about it. So anyway, when I put it out, like nobody came out in droves to watch it. Like
sure.
It was like 48 hours and I had like 38 views, and I'm like, where did everybody go? And so anyway, you start to think like, am I wrong? Or like, what's wrong with me that this is interesting and nobody else likes? Like you talked about your Stallmeyer one, Sammy. I remember that video, and that got me interested. I already knew about this, but it actually helped me get more interested. Finally showed a card off, by the way.
Hey, there's a card.
Nice.
But I knew of this card, but your video, Sammy, got me more interested in really, really wanting this card, not just because it was an Erskine, but because it was part of a set that I now had a deeper connection because of things that you shared on your video.
Right.
That's something that I find interesting. But when people don't watch something that we do, maybe it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, am I weird for liking this Norman Rockwell picture, or did I not present the information correctly or whatever? And honestly, it's probably none of that stuff. It's just maybe there was a big game on that weekend and nobody watched it.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but sometimes, we get into the negative on ourselves, and I can see if that happens enough, like Alex said, you start to think like, well, nobody likes my stuff anymore. Why am I bothering getting excited when nobody cares? And I think as collectors, we all kind of did that at some point in our life. We all collected as kids when everybody was doing it, and you become an adult, and nobody in your direct circle does it anymore. And all of us kind of waned a little bit, probably, from collecting. And then we found an outlet, whether it was at a show or whether it was a forum or whether it was YouTube. And now we're all excited about collecting again. So it's that same feeling again, like, oh, am I now the odd one out type of a feeling?
Right.
I think you did hit something on the head there about bad timing on when you put it out.
Mhm.
I've put out some maybe middle of the day or something, or and it didn't get very many views until when people got home, maybe, let's say, or the next day. But then other times I put it out like late at night, so that people see it first thing in the morning, when it's right there in their face. But if they have to wait too long to see it, when they get home, there could be another 40, 50 new videos, and yours is pushed to the bottom. And by the time, time is a hard thing to get. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm retired and I can't watch all the videos, and I watch a lot of videos. So maybe they'll see my video way down the bottom. Oh, I'm going to get to that. But by the time they get to it, it's out of their mind, and it's now down. There's now 120 new videos.
Right.
So I always try to keep a list of the people that you really, really don't want to miss. And then if I haven't seen them in a while, I'll just go over and click on their channel, and oh, geez, they've had 2 videos that I missed.
Right. Here's a really kind of positive takeaway. I think making videos on topics that you like is the key. Your passion will show through the video. That's a great way to look at it. Absolutely. If you're going to make a video, you're going to put a lot of time into it. Make it something that's worthwhile. Make it something that you really like, because that will come through, and people will resonate with that. And here's a wise comment from Max. Being over analytical about your results is responsible for a lot of burnout. In other words, if you're hyper focused on all those details that YouTube gives you as if you're a business, because they really give it to you like you're running a marketing agency or something. And if you buy into that, you can really get depressed. And it's like, does it really matter? I mean, to a certain degree, sure, but are we going to let it run the emotional aspect of what we're doing here? None of us are trying to run a business per se. We're trying to connect with people and make stuff for fun. Well, guys, we've got 5 minutes left. Any final comments / cards that you pulled aside that you want to throw up on the screen real quick? There you go.
He pulled up. We're talking about Stahlmeyer's. This was my big Stahlmeyer pickup before the National this past year.
Beautiful.
So, and I think it has some hot dog juice on it to make everybody pleased. And I don't want to hear about Kurt's card care taking it out. Let's not get into that.
The hot dog juice stays. All right.
Here's an oldie but a goodie.
Hey,
my Eddie Wakis autograph.
Speaking of which, Mookie Chilson has some great Eddie Wakis content that everybody should check out on his channel. I was paid to give him a promotional plug. Drew, any cards you want to?
Yeah, so you asked me earlier on today if I'd come on. I said sure. I sent it out in the text thread. I said, hey, I'm going to be on tonight with Sammy. Any cards anybody wants to see? This is by special request. This is for everybody's hobby hero. This is a card I picked up in the National. It's got a beautiful story, including our very own Sammy Thunder being there and helping me with the deal. So this was by request from another one of our friends who was also standing there. So I figured I have to show it off. So there you go.
Excellent. And since I spent my day working on this video that will maybe get released this week, we'll see what happens. I'm going to show this card again. It's been sitting here with me as I try to finish this video up. Always happy to see it. Always happy to find it sitting here at my desk.
Remember being crammed in the car looking at that card?
Yes, absolutely. I remember that.
That's a beauty.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, for being off the cuff, I think this went really well. Appreciate all you guys sharing your thoughts on this community of ours and running channels. If you guys are not subscribed to these gentlemen, I'm sure you all are, but if you're not, make sure you look them up and subscribe to them, because they're all running fantastic channels, not just currently, but in the past. Go back into the past and find earlier videos, maybe some of the videos that they were talking about today. So Mike, Drew, and Sammy, thank you all, guys. And although we didn't really mention it, Happy New Year's, guys. It's right around the corner. Have a great New Year's Eve and a nice recovery the next day, I guess. And we'll see you all next Sunday. Have a great night, guys.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Bye, guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you.